Hello, everyone. This is Jeff Wilkerson, professor of physics at Luther College, bringing you once again what to look for in the night sky, this time for the week of July 26th, 2021. I think it's a great week ahead. I'm pretty excited about this week. It requires you to be out after midnight, up early in the morning to do some of this observing, but probably worth it. It doesn't have to be done this week. If you wait a week or two, you'll be okay with some of this. What we've got I thought it was time for us to check back in with our bright planets, Jupiter and Saturn. And so let's start there. Although we have plenty more to talk about here, we'll just pull this out as we move along. Right now, this scene. Sorry, I apologize for the busy scene on the board. It would probably make more sense to you if I drew it as we worked on it. But students who've taken my classes know that that's a recipe for you not being able to understand or read anything that I write on the board. So I take my time and draw this in advance a little bit. But this scene, for me, looking from about 43 degrees north latitude, this scene is looking straight south, and here at 90 degrees west longitude, the this is probably about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning kind of scene. So somewhere about look south just after midnight, in the hour or two after midnight, and this is what you see. The two brightest objects you'll see looking south are Jupiter and Saturn, and I've written the magnitude numbers underneath there. Remember, we've talked about this several times. Magnitude is a system that counts backward, and so a lower number is brighter, and every step in magnitude is a multiplicative factor of 2.5. So this means that Jupiter at negative 2.8 is 3 magnitudes brighter than Saturn at 0.2. And so Jupiter and Saturn will be the brightest objects in this region of the sky, but Jupiter will be higher up in the sky a little bit and will look to you quite a bit brighter. 2.5 times 2.5 times 2.5 times 2.5 is 6.3 times another 2.5. Sounds like it's going to be about 15 to 16. So Jupiter's going to look about 15 to 16 times brighter than Saturn to you here. So go out and check these out. Jupiter will be the brightest object out there unless the moon happens to be going by when you're doing the observing. So these stars are separated, these planets, excuse me, are separated by about 20 degrees. A couple of fist widths held out at arm's length. So you hold your fists out at arm's length like that, and that's what you're going to see is the separation of these stars pretty close in the sky, given the vastness of the sky. It's pretty good to see Jupiter and Saturn this close. You might recall the last time we talked about, maybe the next to the last time we talked about most recent time, next to most recent time we talked about Jupiter and Saturn, they were in conjunction. And so they were in conjunction earlier this year, and they've been separating since then. They were right on top of each other and have been separating. Now, between them is the Delta Star, excuse me, the Delta Star in Capricornus. And so the Delta Star in Capricornus is about 6 degrees. It's a little bit below the line. If you draw a line from Jupiter to Saturn, Delta Capricorni will be just below there. And it's about 6 degrees from Jupiter. So it's about a third of the way from Jupiter down towards Saturn. It is only 2.9 magnitude. So it is, if Jupiter is, we're talking in very rough terms here, folks. It's okay. We can talk in rough terms. If Jupiter is 15 times brighter than Saturn, then Delta Capricorni is going to be about 15 times fainter than Saturn. Saturn will be about 15 times brighter. So this is an interesting test for you to go out and pull these things apart, to look at these things. Maybe just 10 times fainter. But this is going to be a fun test of your sky, and to look for these things to the south. Now, the name that's typically you will see on star charts for this star is Deneb Algadi. This is usually this is translated from the Arabic as tail of the goat. And so we might have talked about this before. I suspect we have. When you see at the beginning of a star name will be the. So presumably the goat is what that would translate as. I don't speak Arabic, and I'm sure I'm not doing a good job of this right now. So if Deneb Algadi is tail of the goat, and last week we talked about the summer triangle stars, and one of the brightest of those, one of the big bright ones up there, in the very back end of Cygnus the Swan was Deneb, usually just Deneb in the sky. I'll leave it to you to sit and try to figure out what you think Deneb might mean there in that setting at the very back end of our swan. So this is the sky we want to go out and look at. and reacquaint ourselves with Jupiter and Saturn. Things are rising a little bit earlier each night, so Jupiter and Saturn will be here in the evening sky going forward. So if we start looking at this in the morning right now, just after midnight, a little while from now, this is what it'll look like just before midnight, and then earlier in the evening as we get into fall. So this is something to keep our eyes on headed into fall. One of the reasons we want to talk about it right now, the Delta star in Aquarius is about 16 degrees, again, maybe a fist and a half, to the due east of Delta Capricorni. And so this star is an even fainter star, 3.3, so it's even fainter than Deneb Algedi. And so this star is a little bit harder to see, but you should see these four objects pretty well. If you go outside, you need your binoculars. You can use your binoculars if you've got kind of a milky southern horizon, if you're as far north as I am. If you're fortunate enough to be observing this from a more tropical zone, then these things will be pretty high overhead. So if you're just south of the equator when you're looking at this, you would have a pretty good view of these things high up overhead, much better than I'll have a chance to see. So this star is about 16 degrees, about a fist and a half over here, a little bit fainter. Use your binoculars to see these two stars if you need to. But my guess is on a good night, unless you're observing from very far north or very far south, on a good night, you'll be able to see all four of these objects here together, spaced with the spacing somewhere within, if you draw a square of two fists on a side, you should see a box that looks like that contains this region of the sky. Let's make it 3 fists on a side to be safe like that. You'll have a box that contains this, and you'll see these 4 objects: Jupiter, Saturn, Deneb Algedi, and Delta Aquarii over this direction. Sometimes on modern star charts, you see that called a SCAT, S-K-A-T. I get most of my information, by the way. Don't think that I'm making all of this up. That I'm going out and researching all of this and learning all of this. Star names, they're lore and meaning by Richard Allen. I highly recommend it. It's a sort of I would call it a technical book. It's not a book that you sit down and read from beginning to end often. It doesn't have a lot of narrative to it. But it's an interesting introduction to the names of constellations and stars. And I do actually sit down and just read it every once in a while. And so, what he'll say in here is that this is what you'll see in modern star charts. In older charts, I think the spelling was something like that, often like the charts that Tycho Brahe would have been using, would have had this name. Given that name, we might expect that it came from the Arabic for a wish. This might be Arabic, translation from Arabic for a shin bone, but I think the origins of this name are somewhat obscure. We're not 100% sure how that name in English came to be. So in any event, familiarize yourself with this region of the sky. See if you can find that star, Scott, and find Deneb Algedi. And look for Jupiter and Saturn, and watch Jupiter and Saturn in the coming months, the coming weeks, and the coming months. Now, about 14 degrees, about a fist and a half straight south of Delta Aquarius is going to be the bright star Fomalhaut. And I love that star, one of my favorite stars. It's a magnitude 1.2 star, so it's much brighter than any of these stars, but it's so far south that for observers trapped above the 40th degree north latitude line like myself, well, I'm not exactly trapped here, but where I am right now, this is the southernmost star that I can see easily. If I walk outside and say, I just look at the sky without any optical aid, I just look up, I say, there's a bright star skimming the horizon, and doesn't look that bright because it's so much atmosphere that I'm looking through. It's Fomalhaut. And I usually do that in October, and we probably recorded a video to talk about it last October. If not, we will this October to remind you to go out and look at that. But you could probably, I do it in October because then it'll be in the evening sky. 8 o'clock at night, I can go out and look at it. Right now, you want to do this at 3 in the morning or 3:30 in the morning. So at 3:30 in the morning, you're out here at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, you're out here looking at this. It depends a little bit on your local, how your local time is relative to other times. But you're out here looking at this, and what you'll see in the next week is there is a meteor shower, the Delta Aquarians. And now we've talked about this before, and we will again. That a meteor shower occurs when the Earth intercepts the debris left by a comet. So they occur at the same time every year. And since we're hitting this dusty material at a particular point with our atmosphere, that means the meteors all look like they come from the same spot. And in this case, that spot is very close. Whoa. That spot is very close to, almost did it again, to Delta Aquarius right here, Delta Aquarii. And so it's right in this region. We call that the radiant of this meteor shower. The meteor shower is far enough south. Again, if you're fortunate enough to be observing this from a southern hemisphere location, southern latitude, this will be much more favorably placed for you, or even a northern latitude of 20 degrees or 30 degrees would be better than where I am here, 43 degrees north latitude. So I'll miss some of these meteors that would be going, they'll be obscured by the haze in the earth as they travel this direction. But I'll be able to see the northern meteors. And even with that, maybe near the peak will probably be the morning of about the 29th. So if it get out at about the 29th, it's still quite a bit of moon on that date. The moon will be fading all week long, so the moonlight will be washing that out. But I still wouldn't be surprised if I could see 10 meteors per hour, maybe a little bit better than that from this shower here. So that's every 5 minutes or so, maybe. Every 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to see a meteor coming from this region of the sky. That if I trace it back, it looks like it came from that region of the sky. One of the great things about this particular meteor shower is it's broad. It's peak. The peak will be on the morning of the 29th. But we got them, as soon as you see this, we'll already be encountering the Delta Aquariid meteor shower. And it'll go on right on into August, through the first couple of weeks of August. And so you have a chance to get out and check this part of the sky. And as the moon disappears through the weekend of the 31st and the 1st of August, and on into that week of August, if you want to get out then and look at it, that you'll still be seeing some of these. It'll be down from the peak, but it'll be a little bit earlier at night that you'd be able to get out and see them. You'll have less moon, and you probably still can see maybe 5 meteors per hour or something, one every 10 minutes or 12 minutes or something like that. So anyway, that's what we got for you. It's a great week, a great region of the sky. They're a little secret. Okay, I'm letting you in on a little secret that I'll share with you. They're all great regions of the sky. But this particular region right now is fun to observe because of Jupiter and Saturn there. Deneb Algany, Scott, Fomalhaut, and then the Delta Aquariid meteor shower that will be peaking toward the end of the week. So good luck with it, everybody. I hope you have fun observing. I hope you have clear skies, and we'll have something new and exciting for you next week. Thanks for watching.